this is Sabina at Crosskeys Crafts. I'm on a mission today. I've got 4 cards to make today. I've already made one, which is a sympathy card. I will post that in a separate video. And in this video, I'd like to make 2 cards. One is a birthday card, one is a wedding card, because these have got a sort of connected theme, because I will mainly be using die cuts, and I will be using embossing folders and something in a moment that I'll show you to replace an embossing folder. The first one is a birthday card for somebody who likes golf and plays golf. And I just went onto Google and had a look what I could find there. And this design I found, I can't credit an individual person. I do believe from the posts I have seen that this is a Stampin' Up design from quite a few years ago. So if you find this and you think I nicked it, it's not my idea. I just liked it and I'm sort of recreating this. So what you need for that is you need an oval die to create the green. I have, this is sort of a thicker paper. It doesn't matter what you choose. I've just chosen some scraps for my cardstock, and I have cut the same in black to go behind this for the hole. If you don't want that, you can cut a smaller piece. I sometimes don't like the look that you get if you put a smaller piece behind. You will automatically have this a bit bumpy, and I didn't want that, so I just cut another one in black. Then I needed a smallish oval die. I don't really have that, but I had a look through my stash and I found this little die. It's actually got a little number on the top which left a tiny indentation there, but I'll be covering that anyway, so I just used that. This came from like an animal, what's it called, you know, when you put the pieces together to make little animals. This is from where this is from. So have a look at your stash, what shapes you have in those sets that have got lots of little shapes. Then I've cut a longish triangle. I just cut that with my scissors. You don't need a die for that at all. And I've cut a small circle here with my smallest circle die. This has actually got a little bit of blue on the outside because I die cut out of some blue inked Lavinia stamps the other day, but it doesn't really matter for the look of that, as long as this one fits into that hole. I saw some cards where this ball was much bigger. That sort of didn't work for me. I thought it has to fit in. Then you need one little strip of white. Here it is. I will cut this down later to make the flag pole. Yeah, and I cut this in white. I've seen again cards that had it in black, but I had a look online. Most of these flag poles are either striped or white so that the golfer can see them. And because this doesn't work on a white background, which most or all of these cards had that I saw, I decided to create a light blue background where this one will actually pop. This is some very cheap cardstock from the works, and I'm actually eager to use it up. It's got a very smooth side here and a sort of slightly rougher side there, which I will probably use. And I was looking for an embossing folder in my stash that would create a sort of neutral background. I could not find that, but then I reminded myself you can use stencils to dry emboss. The important thing is that you're mindful that you don't have any ink on them that might come up from the cardstock, because mine's a little bit stained. I think it's a permanent ink on there, but I'm not sure. So when I place it down, I need to make sure that the inked side doesn't touch this. And the way you do this is you need a silicone mat, something that's squashy. I will tell you the sandwich in a moment. I do believe all I need to do is take this thin board out and replace that with the squishy mat. I sometimes forget about these things and then I just have to try them again. And the other important thing is that you mist the cardstock. So I'm just using my water bottle and I'm giving that a light mist. I do the same with embossing folders because it means that the paper is pliable and it's then easier to basically take on the shape. So I've got bigger holes here and smaller holes. This might even be a Lavinia Stamps one, I'm not sure. I want to place it straight though. A bit mindful that I'm not cutting off all the little ones here, so I'll have to move it over a little bit. So have a play with your stencil. So I'm putting that through my die cutting machine, and then I come back. Just taking this mat out, that wasn't enough, so I chose this mat here. I think I cut this down from the base of a shopping bag or something like that. So this is slightly thinner. Don't know if it's showing comparison. Don't know if it zooms in properly. So that worked for me. You might have to put in some extra cardstock. Just have a play with your die cutting machine. The other thing I'd forgotten to say and I'd forgotten to do is to put a protective layer on top of the card piece, because what happened here is I've got some indentations from my top cutting plate. So ideally you don't have that on the areas that are exposed. I'm not too worried about it. I will cover this anyway, I think, with my sentiment. So even if I use the back, I quite like the back actually, with the recessed areas. So this, oh, that's the side anyway, the rough side I wanted, I think. So I think I just go for that. And if I place the happy birthday there, or even put the green on there, I think I get away with that. It's a question of how I want to put down the whole design. So for this green here, again, I think it looks a little bit plain, so I decided to put some texture onto that, just with a very plain embossing folder. Don't forget, again I'm misting it, don't forget you don't always have to have an exact design, so I don't have to have any grass design on this. Sometimes the simple texture gives enough interest to make this an interesting card. I forgot to say, the silicone mat I'm using in my die cutting machine, it's not a fancy mat, it's actually a kitchen mat. You get that sometimes even in the supermarkets to buy. So I just cut this apart and I can use it for various projects. So to make my golf ball look like a golf ball, I'm actually placing it back in here so it's in place, and I'm using one of these tools. Any sort of pokey tool would work, and I'm pressing little indentations in here. That's all I'm doing, and because I've got the silicone mat underneath, they go in really nicely, and that's all I need to do. When I die cut this green here, I actually applied a lot of pressure. Different embossing folders need different pressure, and this one actually cut through here. I'm not too bothered about this because this will be stuck down on the black. If you are, it's just a piece of paper, cut it again, put it through the embossing folder with, and the embossing folder and the die cutting machine with a little bit less pressure. So also this was a bit damp from misting it, so I had quickly heated it up with or dried it with my heat tool. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to place my pole in here, because I want the pole to sit in this hole. So I'm just checking now where I want my birthday sentiment. I have already die cut this, and I've die cut it twice for the very simple reason that my piece of scrap paper was big enough for 2 pieces, but you don't need to do that. So I think that will go at the bottom, and then this green here will very nicely cover the blemishes there, and so this gives me an idea where I want the pole to sit. And all I'm doing is on the back, just holding it in place, is just to stick this down with some tape. So I'm just using some clear tape. You could use just a washi tape, but I want this to be more or less permanent, although it will get glued down now as well. The excess here, I will cut that off. So got a mountain here of tools, because I will need that afterwards to place on the top here to make up for the difference of height, because I've got 2 layers of cardstock here. So I will now off camera stick the back on the black onto the back here, and then I will use this piece to just give some dimension to this here, and then I can snip that off. and I think I will already glue it down onto the card base as well. Everything is stuck down nicely now, and all I need to do is add the flag. And what I want to do with this is I want to give it a little bit of shape. So I actually want to bend it a little bit over my tool here in this direction, and then one end down again into the other direction, as if it's flowing in the wind. I don't want to start at the beginning because that will be glued down, but just a little bit here. That end can be flat again. Take a little bit of time. So, and what I want to do with it is where I've got the raised bit, I want to put a little bit of foam pad underneath. So I'm just cutting a little piece off here and placing that on the area that is raised. And then I can put glue here on this end here, and then glue on the tip as well, because I want this to be flat again. So it's not as curved as I thought it'd be, but that's okay. So not quite straight, but I've already stuck it down now because the pole shows a little bit, but I think that's okay. I think you get the idea there. It's just the illusion of it flying. Yeah, ideally I would have stuck it down a little bit better here, but never mind. Yeah, so that's the first card finished. I'm really pleased with this, and I like the use of the stencil as for embossing, and also the embossing folder here. I think this looks so much better than just having a plain piece of cardstock, but whatever rocks your boat. So one card down, 2 more to go. My second card today will be a wedding card, and I saw this design on a YouTube channel called Coast to Coast Craft Girls, and Laurie, who has this channel, she made a wedding card with 2 hearts, one representing the bride and one representing the groom. And I really like the look of that because she made like a tuxedo look and a wedding dress look. So I'm going to recreate something like that on my card, and again I will be using an embossing folder as well for some features of this. When I thought about what cardstock to use, I actually found this, which is the envelope that the wedding invitation came in. And can you see it's got some shimmer, it's got some pattern on it, it's like a pearly white paper. So I thought I'd definitely use that for the wedding card. In order to have sturdy die-cut pieces that I can actually dry emboss and that will sort of stick on the card, I have put I've stuck this on some well, rather, I say thicker paper rather than cardstock. I just used my glue stick for that. You can use double-sided adhesive sheets, but because I'm going to dry emboss that anyway, there will be plenty of pressure for this to stay on here. So I have die cut 1 heart in this with this paper. I also made a few smaller ones for embellishments later. I've done 1 in black and 1 in white cardstock. These heart dies, by the way, they are Sizzix ones. They're nesting dies. When I bought them, they didn't come cheap. They are great for cutting shapes out, but they're not great for apertures because you always have a sort of imprint of the frame. I never really liked that about these. Oh, I can show you here. If I show you this piece, so you've always got this frame. I don't particularly like that look as an aperture, but maybe you don't mind. So I think at first I'll show you how to cut the tuxedo. Oh, by the way, I've also got little die cut circles there. These are actually from a different project, but because I don't always tidy my desk, I just found them on the side here, and they'll be perfect for the buttons. So I think I'll create this slightly different to Laurie, but it's been months since I've seen her video. So I'm just cutting this in half. And I also want to cut a slither away or a wedge away on the inside of that cut. I haven't cut all the way down, but it doesn't matter as long as I do it the same on the other side. What I could do is put this piece on here upside down as a template so that I cut it very similar to the other one. Oops. Tell you what I need to do, I need to put on my glasses. I've become really blind lately, so that is so much better. I can see what I'm doing. So I'm now placing these hard pieces back on the white heart. So yeah, ideally I would have cut a little bit better at the bottom. Tell you what, I'm just tidying this up a little bit. Cheat a little bit here. Just cutting this a little bit straighter. Nobody will know. So these get glued down here like this, and then I can use these pieces here a bit like collars. So I'm moving them up like this. I need to zoom in, sorry about that. Up like this, and then once I've glued these down, I can then, I'll tell you what, I glue these down before I put it on the wide piece, and then I can cut the overhang off. I will quickly do this off camera. My suit is finished. This collar sits a little bit higher than that one, but I'm not too bothered about that. And I've added a 5th button there. I should have left bigger gaps maybe in between, but that's really up to you. So I decided, because I've got so much shimmer going on, to actually use a shimmer pen on the black. I think it would just enhance this a little bit rather than having it this sort of dull black. So I've got my Spectrum Noir clear overlay. You can use a wink of Stella. They all sort of work the same way. So I'm just going over this and just spread the shimmer all over it. Try to avoid the shirt in the middle. I don't want that to be shimmery as well. So I don't know if the camera picks it up. This is obviously still wet now, but when it dries it will just have the shimmer staying behind. So for the bow tie, I looked in my stash and I thought I had a bow tie die, which I do, but it's way too small. So I have cut another little piece from this one here. So I've got the envelope on one side and the plain cardstock, and I cut it to the width of that white collar there. I think that's a good width. And first of all I'm going to cut the corners around a bit. I could use a corner rounder, but I just like this to be a bit smoother than having harsh corners. The other one's not perfect, but it doesn't matter. So, and then, by the way, Laurie did it the same way. I'm going to mark the middle here of that piece. And I'm also marking the middle again, just on the back. Yeah. So, and I'm now cutting from that rounded corner towards the middle. I'm not going right in the middle, actually. Maybe I should have marked it differently. I will leave a little bit. And then, oops, it's very fiddly. And then I'm working my way back to the other corner. I might have to bend it a little bit, I think. Okay, you could start on the other corner, but I think it might be easier here. See what I'm doing? And I'm doing the same from the other side. I'll quickly do this off camera. I've now cut a little strip again from the paper plus cardstock, and I'm just measuring the height of this middle piece here. So I'm, you know, the very middle here, and I'm just marking that, and that's all I need. If you wanted to, you could die cut a little dot, but I'm just cutting this by hand. And this little square that jumped away now, that will just sit on the middle. I'm going to glue that down when I'm going to put this down. So to decorate the other heart for the bride, I will put this through the die cutting machine, which with an embossing folder. I still have to choose that. But I also found things to decorate. At first I thought I might use some of this pearl ribbon. I thought that would be nice. But then I found these in my stash. I think these are either from the Works or from Poundland. And these are just stickers with little beads. So I thought these would actually work as a necklace. And I'm sure when I peel this C off, I can actually stretch this out a little bit and make it a little bit wider. Or I could put two pieces together. I've also still got loads of O's. So I think that the glue behind it will be quite flexible. But I won't stick this down yet. I will have to do the dry embossing first. So I was looking through my stash of embossing folders, and I was looking for an embossing folder that's got flowers on them, but actually rather smaller details flowers, because we've got a small area to work with. Just get rid of that cat hair there. So what I found is actually this peacock, and it's got flowers here, and I think they will actually be perfect. So when you place your piece down, make sure the indentations, they actually face the cardstock there. So I'm going to mist mine from the back. I've got quite a big piece, a thick piece now. You could, if you wanted to, dry emboss the paper first, then stick it down on the cardstock, but I think we get away with this, doing it like this. So I'm placing this down now here, and I'm playing around a little bit to get the image here as much as I can, but I don't want any of the feathers. So I think if I do it like this, I think I've got a good impression there. So I think what I will do though is take a little bit of tape. I hope I'm not shifting it again. It's supposed to stick to my finger, and it's also quite damp now. But I'll see if I can just stick it down a little bit so that it does not shift on me. Might not work. So I'm going to see that I can get it through my die cutting machine. This is a thicker embossing folder, so I need to practice a little bit. I'm starting with fewer plates, and if I need to add more, that's fine. I don't want to overdo it. So with this embossing folder, my sandwich in my Big Shot was one cutting plate, and then this one underneath. That worked perfectly. Quite a lot of pressure, but I really like the deep impressions. How cool does that look? And it works really nicely with that pearlescent cardstock. So then I thought, just to tie these in, my idea is actually to have a DL card, to have a play with these on a DL card. So I thought, if I do that, I'd like to have a strip to connect the individual pieces. I might change my mind afterwards when I've had a play on the cardstock. So I cut myself another piece from that envelope. I actually opened it up, yeah, as much as I could. And I've got two creases in here now. There's one there. But my idea is, once I've sent that through the embossing folder, that will disappear. What I did not pay attention to is that I've got a little bit of the glue from the envelope there, but hopefully nobody will notice. Oh, this is, by the way, this is 1 inch wide and 8 inches in height. If I decide to have a different card format, then I can cut this piece off. So, and again, I suggest to have a pattern that's not too big. And I decided to go for this swirly pattern. Don't ask me where my embossing folders are from. This one I can tell you, but it's an old one. That's a Crafter's Companion one. I've used that a few times. I really love it, but nowadays I wouldn't buy this anymore, because how many peacock cards does one make? I like to have something more generic like I have here with a swirly pattern. So again, I'm paying attention that I'm putting it on the recessed areas, and I'm doing this once from the bottom and then I'm doing the rest again. And I think with this embossing folder there is actually a way of having a continuous pattern. I have in the past pushed a strip through like this as well. I think that is doable, but I'll work it out once I've die cut one piece. So I'm embossed one piece. I'm not putting it on the side here just in case I have to do it like this. So again, I'm using my tape here just to stick this down. I will then spritz a little bit with water and then send it through my die cutting machine. I have embossed this panel here, but I realized when I was cutting the sentiment I wanted that this is actually too wide for a DL card. So I've dismissed the idea. So I've got a 5x7 shopboard card here, and I'm just having a play around on my card how I want to place these elements. So that was my, well, that would be sort of the obvious idea, I think, with a few decorations here. I think this is too plain. This is why I thought if I have a panel like this, this sort of connects the top of the card with the bottom just by sort of, you know, being in the background there without being a full panel. I just want to show you a few options. That is nice, but I think actually that the cream is too harsh against this white. I also haven't stuck this one down yet. I have cut the sentiment in black and in white, and I'm still on the fence whether I want the white with a black shadow or whether I actually want to put the white in the back and have a bold black statement. I think this could look nice as well if I have that at the bottom and that at the top, but I'm still in the playing stage. I will actually have a look in my stash if I've got either a different background, not this white, or if I've got something else. I could dry emboss a whole panel to sit in the middle here. As I said, I'm just playing at the moment. This, by the way, before I forget to say that, this is the shadow die. I again cut this from the envelope. I'm really stretching my supplies here. This fitted perfectly in there. This is from the All the Sentiments stamp and die set by Made to Surprise. I got this second hand for a reasonable price. I always wanted big words like that. I'm slowly but surely growing my collection. I think this is really good, but they are big words. So I'm having another play, and I think just to keep this video short, I will make all my other decisions off camera and will just show you the finished card. Here's my finished card. As you can see, I went for the DL shape after all. I really was tempted, but I did it as a portrait style rather than landscape style rather than portrait. I went for different cardstock because I thought the white was too harsh, and I have got this hammered cardstock in my stash. I've got a few sheets left, so I just wanted to show you in comparison with my white cardstock. This is a sort of an off-white, and that works much better with the color of the envelope. I have cut this, obviously the DL card is 8x8 scored at 4, and I cut from the bit that was left over a smaller panel that was 7 3/4 by 3 3/4 because I wanted to add some ribbon, and that's what I did. So I put a strip of ribbon, just glued it on behind it, put the panel down, and then I added a little bit of glue where I knew I would have the die cuts on top. Otherwise glue might come through. At first I thought I'd work with adhesive tape, but even that showed through the white ribbon here. And then I put the heart here, the bright heart, I put that on foam pads so that sits a little bit higher. I went, and I recut this as well, the Celebrate, in this hammered cardstock, because again I thought the white was too harsh, so the only real white thing is the shirt there, but I think that's okay. And for the necklace, the letters weren't as bendable as I thought they were, so I cut the C down a little bit and just did a small necklace, but I think that works nicely there, and I'm really pleased with this. I think these flowers are so beautiful. So yeah, I think the recipients will be really happy about this card. I hope I could give you some ideas on what to do with dry embossed die cuts. I'm just bringing this one in again because it's basically the same theme, using some dry embossing to just add some interest to the card. Yeah, if you like these ideas, you might want to give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe, share and comment if you like. And I'll see you again soon with another video.